Star Wars Outlaws finally has a release date, and it's the 30th of August 2024. Now, the question on my mind is whether or not this is going to be the biggest space game of the year. There's a few reasons why it might be, and, well, to be honest, quite a lot of reasons why it might not be. So, the footage you're seeing on the screen right here comes from the latest trailer. This is a story trailer, not a gameplay trailer, although we have seen some gameplay in the past. The game is being developed by Massive Entertainment, who are the same team behind the recent Avatar game, that's Avatar: Frontiers of Pandora. And all in all, that wasn't a bad game at all. Of course, it did follow the usual Ubisoft format, the Ubisoft structure that many of you have either come to love or hate. But you know, it did have some fantastic environments in and some pretty good overall gameplay. Star Wars then is very likely to follow the same format, at least that's the impression I'm getting. The significant addition here, of course, is the ability to get inside spaceships and fly to other planets, not to mention actually fly around in space and get involved in some space-based combat. So, what are the reasons that I think this just could be the largest space game of the year? Well, the biggest point and the most obvious one, of course, is that it has the Star Wars franchise behind it. That's still a very big name at this point, even though in some people's eyes it has been dragged through the mud a little bit too often. Regardless of how many of us may feel about the stories though, it still is a very iconic world and something I'd personally love to go out and explore. So yeah, the fact it is the Star Wars franchise is certainly a bonus point for it. I'm also looking forward to getting to grips with these spaceships here and flying around both in space as well as from planet to planet. Now, the earlier footage does show the spaceship leaving the atmosphere so you can take off from the surface of a planet and fly directly up into space. But it does look like there is some sort of transition going on here, and then it's masked or hidden, some sort of loading screen, by these clouds. And as of the latest information we have, Star Wars Outlaws will feature 5 different planets. Each of them will not be full planets you can explore, but instead they will have maps you can walk around on, and each of these planetary maps will be roughly, I do believe, at least the same size as that of Assassin's Creed Odyssey. So that means there should be plenty of places and areas to actually explore, each with different biomes and completely different environments. And quite naturally, because Star Wars doesn't seem to get away from it, that will also include Tatooine. But then we come to the reasons why I think this very likely won't be the biggest or at least the best space game of the year, and there's quite a few reasons here. Now, the footage we saw today in the latest trailer showed everything, almost everything at least, down on the surface of planets with very little to do with spaceships. The same was true with the previous gameplay trailer we saw. Most of that took place down on the planetary surface with just some action going on in space in between the events of travelling from one planet to another. Ultimately then, it's still very early days, a little bit too early to tell until we get hands-on with this, but it does seem that most of the gameplay is going to take place on planetary surfaces rather than inside of your spaceship, and that kind of really cuts into the epic narrative of a massive space game, at least in my opinion. Also, another point here, Star Wars Outlaws is not a sandbox game. It is an open world game, but it's not a sandbox game. That in itself is not necessarily a problem because open world games can provide for fantastic environments and fantastic games. There's some really good examples out there for this. But my main concern, at least at the moment, is that the focus is going to be far too much on character and story. And that just may be anything outside of this is going to be repetitive old-style quests. Of course, there's nothing certain here, that's just my take, but do let me know what your take on this is in the comments section below. I'd love to hear what you actually think about this. Right now though, I think at the end of the day, what I'm looking forward to with this particular game is simply getting the ability to explore these various different environments. This worked for me pretty well when it comes to Avatar: Frontiers of Pandora. It's a game that I thought was pretty decent overall. I wasn't a big fan of the story, but I did like the environments and the fact that you could just spend some time exploring around the map and moving from A to B and just getting involved in various different activities. I can see that working pretty well in a Star Wars type environment. Although for me, I think the game I want to see ultimately with Star Wars is something along the lines of a hybrid between Elite Dangerous and Star Citizen, but entirely set within the Star Wars universe. Let me know what your perfect Star Wars game would be in the comment section, why not? So for now, yeah, that's pretty much it until we hear more on this one. Kinda looking forward to this, but I do have some hesitations as well. My thanks to you for watching all the way to the end, and if you're still here, why not watch this other video on the screen right now? Take care, and I'll catch you next time.